So the last thing I want to talk about in the context of factory methods is just give you a kind of an overview of how they work under the hood. And it's actually kind of cool to see how this stuff all comes together. And this will relate back to our previous discussions about the common fork join pool or fork join pools or just thread pools in general. So we're going to take a look at the internals. So supplyAsync, when the supplyAsync method is called, it will take the supplier lambda that's passed to it and arrange to have that supplier lambda run in a thread in a pool. In this particular example, we're going to use the common fork join pool. So here's the supplier lambda. You've seen this before. It's going to multiply two big fractions together. Once again, we can pass these parameters using effectively final values. And supplyAsync is going to return a future that will be completed, in other words, will be executed by a task that's running in the common fork join pool. And it's going to work on whatever is returned by the supplier, which is this thing here. This is a supplier lambda. So that's going to be stashed away, and we'll see how that works in a second. So when supplyAsync is called, when this method is called, you can see supplyAsync takes the supplier that it's passed, and it's going to go ahead and do something with it. So what it's going to do is it's going to first take the supplier that's been bound to it. So this is what we pass in. This is what's bound to this supplier using the magic of Java lambda expressions. And then it takes that supplier, it wraps it up in a class called async supply, which is a nested private class inside of the CompletableFuture surrounding class. And it's going to go ahead and schedule this thing to be executed on the common fork join pool. Here's what async supply looks like. You can see async supply takes the parameter that's passed to it, this guy right here. It goes ahead and stores that supplier in a local field. So here's what gets passed in there. It stores that local field, and then when the exec method is called, and the exec method is called by a worker thread in the common fork join pool in this particular example, it goes ahead and says, hey, get me the results of that supplier lambda. Go ahead and call that supplier lambda. Remember, this is what it does. And so it's going to go ahead and call this operation, and that will then go ahead and perform the operation, but that operation will be performed in a thread in the background pool, or in a background thread in a worker thread running in the background in the common fork join pool for this particular example. So that's basically how we're able to pass code that starts out over here, this code that's passed there, that lambda expression, that supplier lambda, is passed down through the CompletableFuture framework, given to the common fork join pool, and then executed in order to perform the computation in the background. So that's kind of cool. That's just hopefully putting all the pieces together for you. And then you can see how things are scheduled by supplyAsync, and then how they're run by some pool, in this case, the common fork join pool. So I just wanted you to sort of see how these internal behaviors operate, because it may make more sense as to how the CompletableFutures work.